one hidden rule could let Trump go free even if a jury convicts. I'm not kidding, folks, and this is not my kidding face. This is real. Watch the interview that Matt Robeson conducted with legal expert Steve Vladek right now.
This seems to be dominating Twitter. I literally was in my backyard yesterday and my neighbor stopped me, probably listening to this right now, to say, I'm really worried about this Aileen Cannon thing. Our previous guest, Joyce Vance, MSNBC legal analyst and former appellate chief in the 11th Circuit, had a little Twitter thread about this. Although a judge's behavior in court generally doesn't form the basis for recusal, the 11th Circuit has ordered reassignment, where a judge leans so heavily for a defendant, the 11th won't tolerate the damage it would do to their credibility if she failed to voluntarily recuse. It's extremely unlikely it stays with her. And as a last resort, DOJ will challenge her participation and win. Steve, what do you make of that?
I want to be as optimistic as Joyce is. Here's the problem. So the challenge goes to her initially. And if she really wants this case and wants to mess with it, she can say, I don't need to recuse. And then DOJ would go to the 11th Circuit, the Atlanta-based federal appeals court. But the review that the Court of Appeals conducts at that point is highly deferential. And it is no given that the 11th Circuit would say she had to recuse. And then we get to the real problem, which is in federal criminal law, there's a little switch called Rule 29 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, which allows the district court at the end, after a guilty verdict is returned by the jury, to enter a post-judgment verdict of acquittal. And that order is not appealable, which means that if she did, that would be the end of the case. And that order is not appealable, which means that if she did, that would be the end of the case. And so I think we ought to be steeling ourselves for the possibility that we go through all the motions of a trial, Trump is prosecuted, that he's convicted, and that a Trump-appointed judge lets him walk out the door.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've just blown my mind here. Can I just read that back to you? What you're saying is that if a jury returns a guilty verdict in the classified documents case, Judge Cannon, as the permanently assigned judge overseeing the case, can say, nope, I am going to acquit you myself. And that is not appealable. There's nothing the Department of Justice can do about that.
That's the way the rule reads. It's a little bizarre twist in federal law, and it has not been frequently applied by judges because it's so extreme.
The problem is not the rule. The problem is its unappealability. I actually think you can make a pretty good argument that it's helpful to have this kind of defendant protective rule in the system, but it shouldn't be absolute. It shouldn't be a sort of literally a get out of jail free card.
Oh my gosh, this is Alderaan has just blown up and a million voices suddenly cried out, what the hell is Rule 29?
This is why I think there will be a lot of pressure on DOJ to try to ward off that possibility by moving to have Judge Cannon recuse, and why I think that'll be where the fight is in the next 6 weeks to 6 months.
There has been a lot of bloviation on Fox News over the weekend, and we covered some of this in our recent video that went up Friday night. We called it MAGA Panic. You can find that on the Blue Amp channel, about the idea, and we've heard this from MAGA types before, that we're turning into a banana republic, and that somehow the prosecution of a former president and the leading nominee for the Republican nomination in 2024, somehow prosecuting a criminal for committing crimes turns us into a banana republic. I can only say that if Donald Trump were to be convicted, and if this Rule 29 were to be invoked, if we went down this road and somehow Judge Cannon or someone else were to acquit him, were to vacate a jury finding that he is guilty, that would render us a banana republic. This is a prescription for democracy disaster.
Look, as Professor Vladek points out, Judge Aileen Cannon is the one who put a wrench into the original investigation into Trump. We don't know what's going to happen. She should recuse, but she may not, and she may not be forced off the case. And there's a lot she can do, including throwing out a verdict. This is why we need to take courts more seriously, judges more seriously in the Senate. We need to put as many actual judges instead of right-wing lunatic hacks from the Federalist Society on courts as possible. Aileen Cannon is not a judge. She's a hack. She's there to do Trump's bidding, and she could end up throwing out the legal consequences of his actions. We need to get better at this.